Hello, my friends, and welcome to Metro TV. I'm your host, Andy Hoig, publisher and CEO of Metro Magazine and Midlands Business Journal. Oh my goodness, we have an amazing show today. I'm interviewing Dr. Dain Heer. He is the co-creator with Access Consciousness and international best-selling author of this book, Being You, Changing the World Is Now the Time. I read this back in 2017 and it changed my life. We'll also be talking about the Being You Day coming up on May 22nd. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Well, welcome, my friends. I'm so excited to have here with me today Dr. Dain Heer. Such a pleasure to talk about something really exciting coming up on May 22nd. But I want to do just a little introduction. Dr. Dain Heer. Dain is an internationally renowned author, speaker, and facilitator of consciousness and change. For over 20 years, he has been inviting people to embrace their true greatness. Dain is the author of more than 15 books on topics of embodiment, healing, money, and relationships. Being You, Changing the World, co-creator of Access Consciousness, proud puppy parent, and also a pioneer of International Being You Day. Dain, thank you so much for joining me today.
Andy, what a great pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited. Yeah, there's so much going on. And again, the International Being You Day, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just want to let's just get a little bit of background, a little bit of history. What do you want to tell us? Who is Dain? Who is Dain?
Hi. I'm a generally happy creature who tends to really like being alive. And it wasn't always that way. A little over 20 years ago, I got to a place where I was going to end my life if things didn't change. And I tried everything I could find and said, universe, you got 6 months or I'm out of here. And I was just tired of struggling. I was 30 years old and I'd finally given up hope. And then I went and I had a session of something called Access Consciousness. And an hour and 15 minutes later, I went into that session depressed, suicidal, and wanting to leave the planet, hopeless beyond belief. And I came out of it with a gratitude and a joy for being alive. Something in that session just went, I was like, oh my goodness, like it can be this way to be alive. And so for the last 20 years, I have been doing everything I can to let people know, hey, we have different choices and being us is actually the greatest gift that we have. And you don't have to be anybody else. And when you be you, the world is awesome and everything is changing.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because being you, it kind of sounds simplistic, which actually, I mean, it can be very simple, but we make it so incredibly difficult and hard and a struggle. But there comes your book. You wrote Being You, Changing the World back in 2011. And
Yeah.
how did that come to be? What was the inspiration behind
Well,
it?
I was doing classes all around the world and seeing these beautiful people in class that really the fundamental thing that was going on for them is they didn't have a sense of what it was to truly be them. And over the course of these classes, a 3-day class, they would come in one way and leave another and never lose that sense of that peace and that joy that we have when we're truly being us, that sense of, hey, I'm on target here. And I was like, my point of view was I wanted the world to have access to this. Because I looked at one point and I was having one of these imaginatory, I just made up a word, this is so cool. I was having one of those moments where you ponder the way the world could be. And I thought to myself, after one of these classes, after seeing so many people who were sad and sort of disjointed get out of it, and I thought, wow, what would it be like if the entire world could actually be them? And I was overwhelmed. It was beautiful. I started crying and I went, okay, what can I do to make this happen? Out of that, the Being You book was born. And it was actually taken from a lot of conversations that I had in these classes and put together in a way that it leads you on this meandering journey of you read this, you read this, you read this. And what happens is it's going on this journey that you're different at the end and you don't even know how you got there, but you just get more of you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I created the book, because I wanted people, because being you is not a step-by-step, check this, check this, check this, I did this. It's the antithesis of that. It's where, oh, I didn't do my checklist today, but I'm still happy, you know? And so that was the place from which I wrote it.
Yeah, and so 2011, the book was published. How many years how many years were you in the process of writing it?
Only 10.
Like
well, yeah, exactly. 40 years before that, you know, and who knows how long before that. And the book itself took about a year to write.
Okay.
And in actuality, it actually took about 3.5 years to write, because the real story behind it is, I tried 4 different people to take transcripts of these classes and get a sense of the magic that these classes have. And nobody could. And I finally met this brilliant woman. Her name is Katerina Valentin. And she took it and she got the magic in it. And that's what she created as a book. Because I didn't want a book that was like, yeah, man, being you is when you know, it was, oh my goodness, I was so bored, and I've been so bored and frustrated with things that try to give you an answer. And what this book is about is the question, but also that thread of magic that can go through your life that most people have in rare moments. Well, this could literally actually be our lives. And when I say that, a lot of people, you know, and you know this, it's like you're living proof of this. It's a beautiful example. Thank you for being you. You know, like, I want to talk to you about this day, you know, I'm so grateful. And this thread of magic that some people, they only experience sometimes, but what if your whole life could be that way? Or at least, let's say, a majority of your life rather than a minority of it. And this is actually what's possible. I mean, I see it in my life. I see it in yours. I see it in thousands of people. That was the whole inspiration for the book.
Yeah. And you know what, I'll just tell my little story about how this book came into my life. It was in 2017, though you we crossed paths in 2014. I don't know if you know that or not. I mean, you wouldn't, because it wasn't actually a physical interaction, but it was something where I came across the Access Consciousness website. I was very intrigued, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's something here. But then it kind of left, and then I went on and did my thing. And then in 2017, November, I came across your book via a Facebook Live video. And I was out seeing my mother in Estes Park. I bought it, but then I was listening to it on audiobook, which is amazing. I love the audiobook piece. I'm a better list. I mean, I like to listen versus reading. My preferred way of communication often. So I just remember driving back and forth through Rocky Mountain National Park. A lot of people watching here know I go to Estes Park. That's where my mother lived, and I love Rocky Mountain National Park. So I mean, I probably listened to it like 7 times. I had it on like 1.25 or 1.5. So I was listening to you talk really fast because I just wanted to keep hearing it over and over again. And I remember one morning I woke up, it was 5 o'clock in the morning. So I took this drive through Rocky Mountain National Park, and I was standing on the side of a mountain looking at Long's Peak, and I just started crying. I just was like, oh my God, somebody has given me a blueprint. Whatever was happening in this book, I actually got. I didn't know why I got it. I didn't know what that meant, but I got it. And I'm like, thank you so much. Again, crying on the side of a mountain, watching the sunset, and thanking whoever, obviously thanking you, but it was absolutely magical. And from there, it's like my whole life just was reimagined or reinvented, or again, being you, changing the world. I've known I've wanted to change the world. I just didn't know how the heck to do that.
Yeah. And you saying this, I mean, you're making me cry talking about you crying, because that's really what this is, and And it changes, like you said, it's like, I don't even know what happened. And you said, you know, grateful for whatever. And I love that too, because when you're being you, you don't make somebody the outside source. You have gratitude for their contribution, but
Yeah.
it's just like you are gratitude. You know, you have this gratitude for so many things that none of us have ever noticed. Thank you.
Yeah. And just along, you know, the journey and doing, you know, a lot of classes and different things, I've heard that story kind of over and over again of how this kind of opened up for people, which is going to bring us to the conversation shortly about International Being You Day. And that story in itself is just, I think, pretty fun and awesome. So I've got 2 books. I probably actually have quite a few of these. I would give them out to people, but I have one with Post-it notes. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I mean, do you have any takeaways from this that you would like to share? Because I'm going to share a few, but I just wanted to ask you that question first.
The book itself?
Yeah.
Oh, so many.
I know. Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's so many, but.
Yeah. And I think the beauty of it is each person gets their own takeaways, and it reaches each person differently. And if there's a takeaway, I guess is that we are all unique creatures, but it's our uniqueness and our difference that is actually the gift of us. And those things that are different about us are often those that we judge the most. However, those are our greatness, and don't let anybody take it away. And a day spent in judgment of you is a day wasted, a day not truly lived. And it doesn't have to be the way it is. It's totally possible to have that vanish.
Yes.
And it's way easier than any of us thought it could be.
Yes. And as I was going back through the book the last couple days, because, you know, I've read it, listened to it, then you kind of put it away because there's a lot of other, like, I mean, you've written 15 books and you've co-authored books with people. But as I was looking through it, I love this. What if there was something right about everything you've chosen? And that never even crossed my mind. It's like, that didn't make sense. Honestly, it hasn't been that long since that didn't make sense, but I actually get it now that everything I've chosen it's okay. And it's not even right or wrong. It's just, I've just chosen it and I can make a different choice.
That. And this is the thing about so many things in this book is you hear it the first time and it makes you lighter, sort of opens up your world. And then you're like, no, like you just can't grok it. But the beauty of it is once you hear anything that's true, even if you've been functioning as the exact opposite of that, it sits in your world because what's true will always win out if we keep going and keep seeking what is true. And being you is actually being what's true for you. And so these things will sit in your world and kind of melt it apart, and you'll go back and you'll have totally forgotten it. You'll read it again and go, oh man, oh, that again. You know, that'll happen 5, 6, 7, 25 times. Yes. But eventually one day it'll be like, oh my gosh, there's nothing wrong with anything I've chosen. Oh my gosh. Like if we just got that, if nobody got anything else out of that book, and there's lots of other things to get in there, but if nobody got that, look at how different our lives would be. Look at how different our world would be having people walk around from that perspective and awareness.
Yeah, and I will say again that I'm actually in that space now with I don't look back and say, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that or should have done this. It's truly, it's freedom. It's just space. It's just space. So, okay, before we're going to take a quick break, but I do want to talk about the light and heavy thing, because that again was something that you talk about in the book, you talk about in many different areas, but you know, I got it, but people, you know, I would have ideas that felt super light and I could see how I didn't know how they were going to kind of unfold, but I just knew they would. And then I'd have a bunch of people say, that's ridiculous. I knew it wasn't. Yeah. But I listened to them, or I half listened to them, but I really felt light. But I always thought that was wrong. Like if you're feeling light, you're insane, or you're a dreamer and you're just being ridiculous. But no way, not so. So
No, that's the exact opposite. So what's true for you will always make you lighter. A lie for you will always make you heavier. So here you were, you have an awareness, and if you look at it, I like to use in the area of business, I like to use Richard Branson as an example, because he has all these ideas and they make him light. He gets excited by them and he's like, okay, let's go. And initially he had to talk people into it. Now, his brilliance has been seen, his beyond this reality brilliance, let's call it that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he follows what's light for him, and nobody is going to stop him. Nobody's getting in his way. And if we function from that, our whole world changes. And it's this fundamental awareness. What's true for you makes you lighter. And so what is that? Well, let's say you have somebody send you a text and you want to go back at them. You're going to attack those suckers, And we all have this. And to pretend that we don't is absolutely ridiculous and not being us. We need to recognize we live in a world where all of us have crap happen. Yep. And how we navigate it successfully and stop hiding it so that we can be present with it. Because every time we hide something, we get heavier too. Yeah. So let's say somebody sends you this text and you just want to tear them a new one, via text. You're going to use that and the emojis. And it doesn't make you lighter though. You notice you're getting into this contracted fight state.
Yes.
Stop and just go, okay, if I were truly being me, what would I choose? Now, it may take a moment. You may need to take another breath or 10, or you just put down your phone and walk away from the situation for a bit and come back to it later when you're not so charged, and then go, okay, if I were truly being me, what would I choose? And you notice you function from a different space, a different energy, feeling, whatever you want to call it. It's lighter. And so that is one great question we can ask. If I were truly being me here, what would I choose? And also in certain situations where we do the same thing over and over and over, we want to ask, who am I being? Because we learn so many of our repetitive patterns from our parents before we could even talk, because we were around them and we perceived how they did things. Little kids are picking up on parents and everybody all the time. And so many of the things that we will choose to do are this sort of automatic response to a situation, which means you're always in reaction to situations. And being you is about being action and being the awareness and being willing to look at what's going on and go, what's going to create the greatest result? But it stems from this awareness of what's true for you makes you lighter, and a lie makes you heavier. So if we look at just that question, what's going to create the greatest result? If we have okay, let's say we're getting a job, we could go here, we could work here, we could work here, we could do this. Well, which out of the four of those makes you the lightest when you think about doing it? Well, that's the one that's going to be most congruent with you. And if we would choose more of what we were congruent with, life shows up as if by magic. The biggest part of the reason a lot of people's areas of people's lives don't work is because they're choosing what is not congruent with them as a being. And so this journey changes everything. And I say again, it's way easier than any of us thought. It seems, it seems impossible to some people, and I'm like, no, it's easy. You just got to choose.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay, we could have like a 3-hour, 5-hour conversation because this is wonderful. But we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about International Being You Day. So we will be right back. All right, well, welcome back. We're going to talk about International Being You Day happening for the first time on May 22nd. So I want you to tell the quick story of how this came to be, because I love it. I mean, there's a lot of days, but it's not easy to get a day.
True story, true story. So here it is. It's the 10th anniversary of the Being You book. And I was so excited. And so what we did was somebody suggested, it was actually our publicist who said, hey, what do you think about creating a Being You Day? And I was like, yes! You know, it's like a little kid who has gotten their present at Christmas already, you know, Santa's come down and there it is. Oh, I was like that. And I just got so excited. I said, okay, what does it take? She said, well, good news and bad news. I'm like, okay, what's the good news? We can apply to the registrar. I guess they register these things. Okay, fine. We can apply to the registrar, the one who does, you know, happiness and all these days around the world. I'm like, cool. What's the bad news? They get 30,000 or 20,000 applications a year. They accept about 30. And I went, like 30, awesome, like let's 30. Do it. Yeah, 30 out of 20,000. And I went, perfect. Those are odds I like. Let's do this, right? And so, and there's a lot of information you have to provide and all this sort of stuff. And we got back just a couple of weeks ago. They came back and said, you are approved. And I was just thrilled. And the backstory on this, of course, is this, you know, writing the Being You book and the Being You book came from these classes where I saw change and transformation in people. And I wanted that to be greater in the world. I wanted to bring this to our world. I do this for our world. Once again, if you could imagine a world in which everybody were truly being them and had and most people still don't really know what it is, but it's an exploration. And so when she said this, and it was so interesting that it was on the 10th anniversary of the release of the Being You Change in the World book, right? Yeah. And, you know, and I remembered about something like 18 years ago, one of the things in a class was I was asked to write a eulogy. And I went, okay, I don't really want to do this, but I will. And what I wrote in that eulogy was, as a result of whatever I'd contributed to the world, people were actually walking around being them and having a gratitude for themselves and each other that allowed a different space to exist on our planet. And when she said this, I remembered that, and I quite literally cried for quite a while, just realizing that there's a space for this available now. And I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, so May 22nd, the website is beingyouday.com.
Yep.
And there's a lot of information, but you do have like a mission. I mean, can you talk about that for just a little bit, or can you talk about that?
For the day or my life, or what would help?
Well, for the day. So, you know, or what's the purpose? Because there's an agenda. So people are going to hear videos. So what can people do on Being You Day?
Oh, I love it. It starts at noon on Houston time, and people can engage online. And what we're going to do is, there's certain people out there in the world that when you see what they choose, or in the presence of that, you hear their story, you hear how they talk to their children, it just inspires you. It's this inspiration. And so the idea is to inspire people to explore, to discover what it is to be them, but also to celebrate being them. And celebrate being the difference, and celebrate all their weird quirks and all that sort of stuff. You know, what makes you you? And so we've got several suggestions, but also that day is going to be a day of inspiration. And, you know, when I was at that place where I wanted to end my life, the thing that was missing were tools and inspiration from people who were living in the trenches of life that were making a different choice. This day is going to be filled with it. Plus, there's going to be a lot of tools, a lot of little things. It's like, hey, you can do this. You know, when this happens, try this. As a way of inviting people to use this stuff in their lives. And when I say use this stuff, I mean use any tool that accesses more of that likeness of you. And to see together. Now, this is year 1, and so I'm very excited, but I'm more excited for year 5 and 10, quite frankly. This is the kickoff. This is the start, and this is going to be whatever it is, and I'm excited for what it already is, but I'm really excited for the future that it has the possibility of inviting to the world. Because if you look at before Earth Day started, most people didn't realize there was an Earth. And now what do we have?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So one of the things I just love about you, Dain, you put out so much information that people can just watch. I mean, there's days and months of YouTube videos and just so much information that you just graciously put out there for free. I mean, people can watch it and it changes lives. So encouraging people to go to beingyouday.com. You've got your website, drdainheer.com, correct?
Yes.
And you've got beingyouchangingtheworld.com. There's so much information out there. And I know people watching, it's going to be it is at the bottom of the screen right now. It'll also be in the notes on the podcast page, but just final words for this day. And then moving, like you said, the future. It's not the future. Wow. The future. Go for it.
Well, what would the world be like if each of us came out of judging us and judging others? And rather than being judged and judging others for our differences, we saw the greatness that the difference in each person is, including us. And what if you truly being you, with the kindness, the gentleness, the gratitude, the joy, the creativity, the intensity, and the sense of possibilities you are the gift, the change, and the possibility this world requires.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And encourage everybody, again, to go to the website by Being You Changing the World and know how, and just, we all want to change the world, and there's just so much there, and so grateful for you. So, all right, my friend, I will see you soon. And my friends, I will see you soon. So take care. Well, thank you, my friends, for joining me today. And I encourage you all to go to beingyouday.com. Check out everything that's happening on May 22nd for the International Being You Day. And also be sure to check out beingyouchangingtheworld.com. You can listen to the first chapter of this book for free, but encouraging you all to buy this book. Totally changed my life in 2017. And also visit spiritofomaha.com, where you'll find information about local events and everything happening in the Omaha metro community. And I'm going to leave you with this quote, a thought for the day, from Oscar Wilde: "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." So thank you again, and we'll see you back here next week.